What's up, everybody? We're stepping into the box for this week's quick pitch, brought to you by Yellaball.
Talking about
Softball.
softball back in the Olympics. Softball coming back to the 2028 LA Olympics.
That
That's
sounds weird.
pretty exciting.
2028 sounds weird.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like forever away.
What is it?
5 years away.
It's going to pass before we know it. In LA, that's going to bring a crowd. And Team USA is going to take Japan down. I'm feeling it.
They got to, it's you got a chip on their shoulder. Lost to them last time.
Silver's not going to do this time.
No. Gotta get the gold. Going for gold. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting news, right? You get softball back. You bring in other additions like baseball, cricket, flag football, lacrosse, squash. I mean, that's all fine and dandy. Those are cool. But softball's back, like officially back. The last, what were the last Olympics? 2024?
16?
No.
What?
Not 2024. What am I talking about? It's not even 2024 yet.
Oh my god.
Oh, I was just doing the simple math, because the Olympics are supposed to be every 4 years, and 4 years from 2028 is 2024, but it's
Did they have Olympics in 2020? Yeah. There were Olympics in 2020. Yeah, there was Olympics in 2020, but there was no crowds allowed. And they had to wear masks.
Yeah. And at the request of the host nation, aka Japan, because those are the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Japan requested that softball be put into those Olympics, and that is how Team USA ended up with a silver medal in the softball Olympic, in softball for the Olympics for that year. Lost to Team Japan in the championship. Unfortunately,
have you ever watched Team Japan play?
I've seen snippets. I know, like, Team Japan baseball, like from Little League all the way up to their men's national team. Like, they're on a whole nother level as far as being in unison.
Oh yeah. Yeah, these players for Team Japan, you watch a clip of them, the pitchers, like, the pitching style for one is different. So it's strange. And then you watch and it's just like
I've seen how, like, it's almost as if they replant after they push off. I've seen that. And I think Japan's pitching style just Japan's pitching style in general, but definitely when you see it in the Olympics, I think that had a significant influence on some of the rule changes for both college and high school in the coming year.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about that stuff in another episode, but yeah, their pitching style is definitely different than what we do here in the US, for sure.
Would definitely trip me up if I got up to bat and that's what I saw. I'd be very confuzzled.
You making up words now.
That is definitely a word.
All right. Yeah, so the Olympic Committee, they voted softball back into the Olympics on October 16th of this year. We are obviously a little late to the reporting party on this, but still news that needs to be reported for sure. Uh, I mean, if we take a look back at Olympic softball, like the mid '90s to the early 2000s, that was
The
the
spike.
peak. Yeah, that was the peak of Olympic softball, Team USA softball. That was when we had, obviously there was a lot of major growth in the game. You had Jenny Finch, Monica Abbott, and Kat Osterman. They were actually like in the midst of their college careers and playing for Team USA. Um, and it was at that point in time, like softball was so popular, um, with superstars like Jenny Finch, Monica Abbott, and Kat Osterman. Um, we actually got a matchup of Jenny Finch versus a few MLB players in Celebrity All Star Weekend. Um, but specifically, Jenny Finch pitched to Albert Pujols during the MLB All Star softball game in 2004, and she struck him out.
Sauced him.
Yeah, like and Albert Pujols. First of all, Albert Pujols is a legendary hitter. Just he's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. Um, but like Jenny Finch, just like you said, she sauced him up. Like he wasn't even close. He didn't foul a ball off. He was late on everything. I don't know if she threw him rise balls or anything. I
I
kind of
think
feel like
she
she did.
I think she threw at
Kind of,
least one.
yeah, because the last pitch of that at bat that he actually struck out on was it was definitely up in the zone for
But you
sure.
gotta throw a rise ball. You have
Yeah.
to. It's a way of life,
uh yeah, but
Rite
I
of
mean
passage.
she just threw absolute fuego, just popping the mitt, blowing smoke right past our Bulls and a handful of other major league all-stars that year. um
There's some
just
videos I watched, I don't even know how many years ago, of it might have been Jenny Finch. I know it was Jenny Finch, but I feel like it was Jenny Finch compared to an MLB pitcher, and I don't remember what pitcher it was. And it was like some kind of different stacks of glass lined up to see how many the ball would break, throwing at their
yeah,
hardest.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I
she
know what
just
you're talking about.
freaking shatters them.
Yeah, it was, I think it was Randy Johnson,
Was it?
big tall lefty, I think. Do you know who Randy Johnson is? I think that's who it was though, because Randy Johnson was like notorious for throwing 100 miles an hour consistently. He was like 6'10", sidearm lefty, just
Oh.
throwing rockets. But yeah, because that was on Sports Science. That was the show that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that episode, the event, the All Star event that took place between Jenny Finch and Albert Pujols, like that just gave fans a glimpse into just how phenomenal our nation's softball athletes were, and that obviously increased the viewership and just fandom around the sport. Um, but even in that huge bump in viewership, like there were like softball still struggled to really get off the ground, um, which I which is I feel like is was one of the main reasons why um, the Olympic Committee decided to remove softball, as it just wasn't pulling in the viewership that they needed. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but then when softball came back for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and there was a pretty, I don't want to say it was like a massive viewership, but I mean that this was happening all at the same time, and that Oklahoma was just becoming dominant, and they were really pushing softball forward. And So with this vote this year to bring softball back in the 2028 Olympics, like I feel like there's no better time, like the game is just it's just at such a rapid pace of growth right now. Like you have this Olympics vote to bring softball back. You have two professional softball leagues in the United States. You have women's professional fast pitch and athletes unlimited. Women's professional fast pitch has gotten popular enough to actually hold a live draft, whereas like in years prior with when USSSA was running their own league with the Pride and like Smash It Vipers and then like a couple other teams. Um, you never saw a nationally televised or a
Draft.
live streamed fast pitch draft. Yeah, you never saw that. you have you have other like collegiate softball leagues popping up in like as part of leagues that were already prestigious collegiate baseball leagues. Um, and again, we'll talk more about that in a future episode. Um, but yeah, I mean, like just an exciting time for softball fans.
Yeah, we both just agreed that the late 90s to the early 2000s was a peak time for softball. And if I'm being quite honest, I think it's one of those where it's a climb up and you get to the top and then it's another level. And
Yeah, I mean,
right
there
now
are
it's shooting
a
to the
little,
top.
yeah, there's a little valley in there too after
Mhm.
2008, and like where it took a minute for people to start realizing like one, we have really really good athletes on the softball diamond, but two, like there was a lull in superstars as well. Like back then, you like we mentioned, we had Jenny Finch, Monica Abbott, Kat Osterman. Like those are the three big names. You might could throw Natasha Watley out there too. But now with the the freakish dominance that Oklahoma's softball team puts out, top to bottom in their lineup, with superstars like Jocelyn Allo and Jordy Ball, which I mean, Jordy Ball is she's still got 2 years of college playing time left. Um, I mean, who else from Oklahoma? You got Jada Coleman, you got Alex Sirocco, who just graduated from there last year and is in Athletes Unlimited. Um, Man, you just got a plethora of players from Oklahoma that have really, I just that program in general with those players has just pushed the ceiling of softball up so high. Um, and then you throw in like all of the SEC phenoms like Skylar Wallace and Montana Fouts and Kiki Malloy, Charlotte Eccles. I mean, the list could just continue to go on. Aaron Kofel, like you just have all these phenoms in the softball community. Like it's hard not to recognize that from a fan's perspective, from a coach's perspective, from a business man or woman's perspective, and acknowledge the I'm kind of trying to think of the right words. Acknowledge the opportunity there to bring this game to a new level. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, they have recognized that, and that's why we see softball coming back to the Olympics. It's like I said, it's just a great time to be a softball fan.
Right. I think a big contributor too, with all of these stud players, just I mean, just dominating all over the country and from all different kinds of conferences and different uh what's the word that I'm looking for? Not position, well, I guess positions, because they're not all, it's not just like you're staring at all pitchers and you're staring at only center fielders. You're staring at a variation of pitch or of players that are providing all these different crazy numbers and plays and everything that draws attention to somebody. And I think because of that is what the viewership's just exponentially grown. I mean, last year, I think that the softball Women's College World Series last year had close to, if not the same amount of viewers as the baseball World Series. And that
I actually think softball had more
more,
viewership than baseball did.
which has that's not a thing. That was not a thing.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, when you're talking about, like you said, all-star talent all over the field, like how do you not get excited about that? You
Right.
know, as a fan, like you're seeing the best players really for the game of softball. You're seeing the best players in the world perform in one place. You know,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, having just all stars all over the field, right? You had Skylar Wallace didn't make it to the World Series, but you had throughout the regular season, you had Skylar Wallace at shortstop, you had Montana Fouts in the circle, you had a Catherine Sandercock in the circle, you had a Kelly Maxwell in the circle, a Jordy Ball. I mean, we could just Najee Kennedy. You
Valley Cagle.
had yeah, I mean, but then you had Valley Cagle at first. You had Charlotte Eccles at first. You had Taryn Kern at second. You had Kiki Malloy in center, Jada Coleman in center, Zeta Pooney at third, Reese Atwood behind the plate, um, Jordan Rudd behind the plate, who's now playing in Athletes Unlimited, graduated from Northwestern. Um, I mean, I think Alex Honnold from Mizzou. I think she plays one of the corner outfield spots. Um, Mac Leonard played first base, pitch. Like, I mean, you just had just
One, players
step.
that can not necessarily jump from position to position, but like you just said, you got players that are pitching and playing first. You got players that can switch on the outfield. You got players that can go from the corner to the middle infield. You got players that are just incredible and fun to watch. How do
Yeah,
how
they're
how do you not sit down and say, "Oh, softball's on"? Like it, I should probably watch this because one, it's
right.
fast
I mean,
paced.
like, yeah, it's
Like,
fast paced, and you're seeing peak athleticism.
yeah,
Like, I mean, when you're talking about athleticism, you're usually referring to men, and I mean, for the longest time, and me being a male, like I'm biased towards men's sports most of the time, but I mean, having been in the softball world the last couple of years and understanding like one how hard this game is, two how hard these girls work to be as good as they are, like it would I'd be an idiot to not be excited about all of the opportunities that softball is present right now, and like where this game is develop, where it's going to, where the development of the fan base and the appreciation of the game. Like I'd be an idiot to just like brush that off and be like, no, I really only care about football. Like football's where it's at, or baseball is the only thing that I care about. Like it's just an exciting time to be a softball fan.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think these Olympics, the Olympics being in the US, that's
Yeah,
that's huge.
yeah, for sure. Um,
And it's in a hot city in the US. It's in LA. Like
yeah, I wish it was
I wish it
elsewhere.
was like in Norman. That would have been just a little closer to go to. But it's fine.
I mean, Dallas,
Could have
Dallas would have been cool.
put it in freaking Jackson, Mississippi. They'd be
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. We
yeah.
don't have to play there. I'm good."
uh, but yeah, no, and I mean, you're talking about like not. We've talked about the excitement for fans, but I mean, even just for the players, like a lot of the players prior to the last 4 or 5 years, like professional softball hasn't. It's not that it's been unattainable; it's just only been attainable for the cream of the crop
Right.
in that of USA softball, right? Like, and granted, we're talking about USA softball here, but like we mentioned earlier with Athletes Unlimited, Women's Professional Fast Pitch, there are other opportunities in other countries for professional softball. But I mean, there's multiple opportunities now that didn't exist, 10 years ago, and more specifically for the Olympics, like now that it's officially back in in the 2028 Olympics, like this is something that a lot of these players have dreamed about since they were little kids watching Jenny Finch and Monica Abbott and Kat Osterman, Natasha Watley play in the Olympics in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
Most of these girls were born in the late 90s or early 2000s.
yeah. You talk about the Women's College World Series stage being the biggest and best stage you can make it to and play on. But now you have this stage in the Olympics, which is the biggest and best stage you can play on. And you gotta know that for these players that have seriously dreamed of this day happening, there's nothing but excitement and probably a lot of um what's the word? Hmm. I guess anxious. They're probably anxious and just are like ready to just go play
Yeah,
and perform for
yeah,
their country.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I wish it wasn't 5 years down the road. I'm sure I'm sure all the players feel the same way. But I mean, Jocelyn Allo expresses her excitement, says for us to be at the Olympics on literally the biggest stage, like you said, is huge. I can't even put it into words. Like she had a poster on her wall growing up of Team USA softball with Kat Osterman, Monica Abbott, Jenny Finch. Like since she was a little girl, this is all she ever wanted to do. Like she wanted to go play softball in the Olympics for Team USA. And now she's getting the opportunity to do that. The best hitter to ever play college softball is getting the opportunity to go try to bring home a gold medal for our country. It doesn't get any better than that.
What an exciting time to be a softball fan.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode of Quick Pitch. Okay. Yeah. Wouldn't you say, Ashley?
What
Yeah.
what do you
I think
want me
so.
to say? Yeah, that wraps it up, Robbie. Quick pitch
All right.
is done. It's over.
Yeah. All right. We'll catch you next time on Quick Pitch.